And now I'd like to introduce our presenter for this webinar, Josh Frank, the Managing Partner at RSM Federal. As an award-winning business coach, professional speaker, and best-selling author, Josh Frank is nationally recognized as an authority on government sales and business acceleration. And his coaching has helped companies win more than $2 billion in government contracts. So welcome, Josh, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Veronica. And you can see my slide and hear my voice?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Good morning, everyone. Again, we're going to be talking about socioeconomic status. And just real quick, Veronica already told you I'm with RSM Federal. Let me throw in a bullet that's not on the slide. I've got 2 dogs. I'm house sitting one, so if they start barking in the background, just bear with me. I've been and right on cue, very excellent. I've been working with the Nebraska Business Development Center it's been years now, and so I've been partnering with Veronica and her team for a long time, and I've been in the market for quite a few decades. Former Intel guy. And what I specialize in, for those of you who have never seen me speak at a conference or heard a webinar, I specialize in tactics and strategies. What I specialize in is bridging government sales strategy with business strategy. Because if all you do is, make sure you're registered in SAM, make sure you have the right NAICS codes, make sure that you're talking to the small business professionals. If that's all you do, you're not going to be successful. You have to have strong business direction and strategy. And so that's where almost all my webinars are built on. So as an introduction, if I told you that you could put a logo or an icon on your website, your capability statement, at the top of all of your proposals, and that if you did that, you could magically win just millions of dollars. From a business perspective, that's crazy, okay? And we're gonna talk about how you position in all those pieces. And so, let me get here, there we go. So, before I jump in, I'm gonna give you an analogy. Imagine there's 2 identical companies, right? Same product or service, both companies, exact same level of education for the ownership, whether it's no college degree, a bachelor's, master's, doctorate, doesn't matter, right? They both get help from the same folks, whether it's mentors, coaches, all the same conferences, all the same webinars, all the same books. They're a part of the same associations, right? And I'll throw a quick plug. If you're in the architecture, engineering, or construction industries, SAME, Society of American Military Engineers. If you are technology, AFCEA, AFCEA, Armed Forces Communications Electronic Association. So, and those aren't the only ones. But make sure that if you're going to enter this space, find out if there's an association, join it. It's anywhere from 20 to 100 bucks. But everybody will be telling you, right? Veronica and her team will be telling you teaming. It's really important, right? So the easiest way is to join an association, and all of a sudden you know all these companies doing business with the government. Anyway, so these companies, absolutely identical. One of those companies in the last 12 months wins $3.5 million in government contracts, and the other company doesn't make a penny. Now think about that for a minute. Exact same type of company, exact same service, exact same training. One succeeds and one fails. Why? Because it's not what you learn. It's how you apply it. And that applies to the tactics and strategies that you need in order to enter the market and to accelerate within. And so this webinar today about socioeconomic status is about those tactics of how do you apply what you've already learned in a way that separates you. It differentiates you, right? Again, there's two sides to the coin. There's the government procurement, and there's business acumen, business strategy. And so that's all just to get us started. And so I'll be covering basic to intermediate pieces today. My success, because every time I do, I do a session or I do training, I say to myself, what will make this successful? For me, if just one of you, if just one company will stop focusing on your business size and your status and focusing on something else we'll get to, then I will have been successful, okay? And this is about an hour Q&A. I'm gonna skip the agenda. We're gonna go through these. So today's objectives. How do you softly communicate your status? Keyword softly, so that you differentiate and you facilitate, a perception of maturity. The importance of communicating the value of what you sell. And how do you do all of this in your email, your website, your capability statement, your proposals, your marketing material, everything. And we're going to go through that. So, at one point in time, you have been or will be counseled or mentored. It can be the nonprofits, right? The scores, the PTACs, SBDCs, etc. It can be business coaches, just like myself, right? It can be small business offices at a military command or a federal agency. It could be buyers within the federal government, it can be contracting officers. But at one point in time, you were told you need to be front and center. There's a government requirement. 23% of all money, all government dollars have to go to small. 5% have to go to minority. We're socially disadvantaged. 5% have to go to women-owned. 3% have to go to veteran. 3% have to go to hub zone. And what is everybody? A lot of people. I won't say everybody. Let's not stereotype. Many folks in the market, all across the board, paid, non-paid, doesn't matter, say you have to be front and center with your socioeconomic status. You need to put your logos on the front of your business card that you're 8A or veteran-owned or woman-owned certified. It should be at the top of your website, and you need to bang people over the head. Now, why does everybody do this? Because it's culture. We teach what we were taught. The problem is, it doesn't make smart business sense, okay? So at the end of the session, I want to make sure that everyone understands that, communicating your status is a core strategy, but there are other things that are more important, and we'll talk through that. Does any of this sound familiar? Business cards. You have your certification logo on the front. You're proud of it. You're a proud veteran. You're a proud woman-owned company. You're a proud minority, right? But that logo on the card, let's say it's on the right side, it's just as large as your corporate logo, right? By the way, what are you saying to me if I look at your card? Well, let me tell you what I see. If you've got your corporate logo on the left side of your card and you have your certification logo on the right, which is very common, and they're both the same size on the card, you know what you're telling me? You're telling me that the value of your company is that you're a minority, or that you're a woman, or you're a veteran. That's ridiculous. That's not the value of your company, right? Website, again, I've touched on this. The logos are on the top of the page. It's the first thing that catches your eye. Think about your website. Marketing collateral. Sorry about the dog. Hold on. Marketing collateral capability statement. Again, first thing you see. And think about when you go to an event. Think about when you go to a conference, right? Hi, we're a woman-owned small business that provides X, or we're an SWSB that provides Y. It's very common. Everybody does it. Everybody does it. But it doesn't make smart business sense, okay? Because you're minimizing the value of your company. I get that most people in our market are telling you there's congressionally mandated, government mandated percentages. Put it front and center. They have to buy from companies like yours. Yes and no. Yes, they have to buy from companies like yours, but if you're not communicating the value of your products and services, you're not going to win. So softly communicating your status, okay? It's every status. Yes, don't get me wrong, folks. It absolutely is a powerful differentiator, but that's all it is, okay? You know, this session is a result of an experience that I had, and I'm going to go through that example here shortly, based on what a company went through. But for right now, just recognize you need to stop hitting everybody upside the head with your status. Now, I want you to look at, if I were to ask you the question, why do companies win contracts? Okay, we can't have this discussion. We can't not have this discussion if we're talking statuses. And so just, you know, yell at your computer screen. Excuse me. For the my nose is giving me trouble this morning. Why do companies win contracts? Now, the odds are you were thinking at least one of these, right? Past performance, the management, value. But the number one reason, all of you at this point should get it, and that is perceived value, okay? Number one reason is perceived value. And so, you know, if I'm at a conference and I go, you know, and your name's Janet, and I go, hey, Janet, it's nice to meet you. What do you do? What do you guys do? Very common. I do not want you to tell me what you sell. We're going to come back to that in a minute. I don't want you to tell me you're small, or you're minority, or you're woman, or you're veteran owned. I don't. That's how everybody introduces themselves. And if you do that, you're telling me your value is that you're a woman, or you're a minority, or you're a veteran. That's not what you want. You know, folks, this goes back to the whole discussion of, you know, to be successful in government sales, you have to bridge government procurement, government acquisition strategy, everything you're being taught, right? But combine it with general business strategy. You've got to act like a business professional. Don't just take everything you hear at face value. So it's not what you sell. It's not your socioeconomic status. It's your value. Okay. Now we're going to talk on value here in a little bit, and I'll go into more detail on some other resources you can use. But some people are going to go, well, Josh, I'm 8A. I'm a minority or a socially disadvantaged certified company, right? First of all, you know, and there are a lot of 8As. For those of you who aren't aware, let me back up. The only fully mandated socioeconomic status that is authorized sole source awards within the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Reg, is 8A, okay? Minority, socially disadvantaged. There's been a lot of talk about, well, there's woman-owned sole source. Yeah, the language is murky, and as a result, there must be, in general, there must be at least 2 bids. So in this example, you have this one minority sole source contract, right? But I want you to name one where they win and they have failed to convince the government they have incredible capability, or they have minimal risk, right? To drive this point home, folks, you look in beta.sam. You find an opportunity, and it's for woman-owned small business. Okay, I'll just pick a status. The government receives 22 proposals or bids. What is the only thing all 22 have in common? They're all woman-owned. So at that point, who cares? Let me be very cold about it. Who cares that you're woman-owned? Because you're not going to win the contract because you're woman-owned, right? It balances you. Think of your status, by the way, doesn't matter, small, woman, veteran, 8A, Alaska Native Corporation, whatever status that you may have, it simply balances you out. So you must still prove your capability, you must prove your expertise, and how you're going to help them. If you don't communicate your value, your status means nothing. There is no such thing as low-hanging fruit in the government space, and you will never win a contract because you are certified as one of these statuses. I'll say it again. Getting certified means absolutely nothing if you cannot also communicate the value of the products and services you provide to your customers. And so, you know, there are a lot of folks at this point that go, okay, Josh, I hear what you're saying. It sort of makes sense, but I've had so many people, I mean, Josh, it's so hard to change my gears on this because so many people have told me, you know, oh, you got to get certified and you got to post it. And here's an example. Okay. Again, if I only convince one of you, right, then I will have been a success today. And oh, by the way, it's these tactics and strategies that I teach that have helped small businesses win more than $2.8 billion in small business contracts. So here's your real world example. I was working with a company. They were a minority, they were 8A. They were Native American, and they were woman-owned. And they called me up and they said, Josh, we got a meeting with the senior contracting officer at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And you know, I'm going to be meeting with him next week. And she said, how should I prepare? And so I walked her through and I said, well, you need a 45-second pitch. I'm going to give that to you today. I'll go through that at the end. And I said, and you need to keep your mouth shut, ask questions, and collect intelligence. And there's more to it, but I said, bottom line, don't touch on the fact that you are, you know, 8A or woman-owned, etc. And so she went in, she sat down. The senior contracting officer said, so tell me about you. And she goes, well, you know, my name is X, my name is Janet, and, you know, we're in the business of providing the following value. And they talked for about 30 minutes. And he looked at her and he said, all right, so Janet, remind me, all right, so you're a small business. She goes, yep. He goes, you don't happen to have any other statuses, do you? And she goes, well, yes, we do. We're a minority and we're woman, we're Native American. And he looked forward, he leaned forward in the chair and he said, Janet, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me you had all these stats? Don't you know the government has requirements for working with companies like yours? And her answer was, that's not who we are. That's not the value that we provide. Now, folks, you can steal this. I have no problem with you throwing this into your tool bag. When she said this to him, he leaned back in his chair and he said, Janet, he laughed and he goes, I think that's one of the best responses I have ever heard. He looked at her thinking, wow, from a maturity perspective, finally a small business that's not leaning on the crutch of their status. He took her by the hand and he said, follow me. he immediately introduced her to 3 of his contracting officers and explained the value that she provided, that she explained to him. And within 90 days, she had 2 contracts at Fort Leavenworth. If this example doesn't drive home the importance of value over status, I don't know what I can do to convince you. Okay. Now let's talk about, so at this point we've talked about, okay, you got to communicate your value, you know, status is just going to balance you out. How do you market? Well, business card. You probably already guessed that. Back of your card. I don't put it on the front. Now, for those of you that go, well, Josh, I hear you, I understand, but I still want it on the front. Fine, that's cool, right? I'm not the know-it-all, be-all. You know, these are my business opinions. But if you put it on the front, make it smaller than your logo, right? Your website. Put it on your government landing page of your website. Don't even put it on your homepage. For some of you, if you have to put it on your homepage, you're like, Josh, I hear you, but I'm still scared that if I remove it from my homepage, that I'm somehow going to lose business. I can categorically tell you without a single doubt, not having it on your webpage is not going to impact you. Why? Because you're not winning contracts because of your status. You're winning because of the value you communicate. So if you have to put it on your website, folks, put it in the footer. Don't put it up at the top. All these same points go for your marketing collateral, right? You know, your capability statement. Don't put it on top. Put it in your company data section. And I'm going to show you all of these so you can, I mean, visually, because I'm a very visual person. I want you to visually see what I'm talking about. Okay. So here's a couple of examples. The one on the left, that's horrible. I can't tell you how many, I mean, first of all, the value we provide is below. Now, most of you are not going to have this on your homepage, okay? But the one on the left is absolutely not what we want to do, okay? On the right, you can see for RSM, you know, there's nowhere else on the website. It is just on the government services page, right? And notice that logo is smaller than the past performance logos at the bottom. Again, what was the word I used to start the webinar? One of the 3 objectives. We want to softly communicate, because if we don't do it softly, we're saying it's like a neon sign saying we're a small business and we're going to market at the value as we're SDVUSB. And that's not what you want, because that doesn't show corporate maturity. Okay, so that's some examples for website. Capability statement. Both of these are good. The one on the left, notice there's not even a status logo. It just says SDVUSB, small business and SDVUSB. If you look on the right side for the RSM, they have a logo. Again, it's tiny and it's smaller than the other graphics on the page. So just remember these pieces. Let's talk your signature block. There are a lot of companies that have graphics and they're sig blocks, okay? Don't add graphics to your email, to your signature block, okay? There are a lot of organizations, including government, that strips those out and puts red X's, okay? So just use the text, and I'll show you some examples. Trade show booth. You know, for those of you who have never been to a government conference, you probably haven't seen it yet. But if you go to a large conference, I mean, there's like 1,000 companies that are exhibiting. There are front and center at the top of a whole bunch of booths, big 8A logo for minority or socially disadvantaged, you know, huge veteran or service disabled. These logos are front and center. That's not softly communicating. In other words, whether it's your business card, whether it's your website, whether it's your marketing material or your booth, secondary location because you want to softly communicate it. This is what a lot of companies that reach out to me when I first get an email from them, this is what it looks like, right? It looks very professional, looks very clean. Excuse me. Again, don't use the logos, right? And you know, you see the awards at the bottom, folks. It doesn't matter what your award is. Look, I'm a Veteran Business of the Year with the SBA. I'm the Small Business Advocate of the Year for the Society of American Military Engineers. I mean, personally, in my company, we've won awards. But anybody that looks at those awards in my email SIG block, if I were to use them, it's like it's like award for finding Elvis alive. Everybody's got them. Nobody cares. So for all you entrepreneurs, small business folks, small business owners, put them on your website and leave them there. Leave them there. Don't be marketing all of these in general because nobody cares. Why? Because everybody's got one. Now, I'm not saying don't be proud of your awards. You absolutely should be. You should be celebrating your successes. But recognize where you think it's showing a state of maturity, most of us look at these as, oh, great, everybody's got one of these. It's Elvis, okay? And so this is what the one on the left comes across as. No graphics, blah, blah, blah. This is what your SIG block, I recommend, look like. And you can see in the second section, woman-owned, 8A, SWSB, or whatever statuses you have. And that's it, okay? That's how you market your status. Now, for all of you that have these capability statements, if you can't communicate your value, okay, quantifiable, qualifiable, numbers, metrics, percentages, right? The value of your products and services, this is what your capability statement looks like. Hey, we're a really awesome company. And, you know, the government has a requirement for working with companies like ours. So you should work with us or you should buy from us. I love Colbert, by the way. Folks, if you're not following my guidance on softly communicating your status and adding to that strong value, communicating strong value, then it will be impossible for you to create a website that communicates your value. And your CAPE statement's going to come across as just one more company with a certification that thinks we have to buy from them or partner with them. And guess what? I don't see any real value here. Yeah, they have the products and services they provide, but so what? There's 1,000 companies that sell what this company sells. I understand, I'm beating a dead horse. But the reverse of what has been provided in this session today has been so ingrained into the small business community by almost every organization. If you want to differentiate and communicate a competitive advantage, follow the recommendations I'm giving today. Your value, when we're talking these numbers and percentages, it's a benefit, right? It's not just a benefit. It's, you know, it's not, let's say your technology. It's not just that you are increasing the speed of access to a network, right? Internal network for an agency or even a corporation. It's you have increased the speed of access by 19%. You've got quantifiable, qualifiable metrics. So every benefit, value that your product and or service provides, I want you to, after this webinar, get a pad of paper, write down, what value do we provide? And then put numbers to them. And if you go, we don't know, we don't, whether you sell products or service, and you go, we've really never captured that. I mean, we provide, technology, or we provide construction services, we provide office supplies, whatever it is you sell, and you may go, we've never collected that kind of information. Well, go back to some of your clients, try to collect it. If you can't, use the industry standards, Google it, right? Hey, what's the standard savings or decrease or increase or whatever it is? But come up with metrics. Your value is not your past performance unless it includes metrics. So for example, let's say you're providing a past performance write-up for in the commercial market, in corporate America, or you're doing a formal past performance write-up for a bidder proposal in the government space. I want you to go back and look at your past performance write-ups. Oh, we provided, we did a Wi-Fi network, and we increased, we provided access points for this organization. Okay, how many access points? What did those access points increase or improve? How many people are on that network, right? There are so many. This is called competency mapping. It's not for today, but look at your past performance. If there's no metrics, it's not strong enough. Okay, it's not, and dollar amount is not enough. Your client list, that's not your value. The services or products you sell, that's not your value. Your value is the value those provide to other companies. Okay. And it absolutely is not your socioeconomic status. Okay. So what I want to do is, for those of you, we started with how do you not communicate your status. We moved into, here's how you do it. You do it softly. We then dovetailed into value, right? And then after that, I want to show you what we call the 45-second pitch. It's probably the most utilized thing that I've come up with in the last probably 6 years. You may have already seen it elsewhere in the market, but I want to show you how all this comes together. Okay. So here's our example. Okay. We have a company that is a small business, woman and veteran owned. And they walk into, they schedule a meeting with a government buyer. Government buyer says, come in and chat with me. Okay. And what normally happens? Well, about 30, 45 minutes into the call, the government, we'll call him Mike. Mike looks up from the desk and he goes, hey, Josh, really appreciate you coming in. However, I've got another meeting. It came up last minute this morning and I've got to go to it. Absolutely outstanding talk. Can you follow up with me? I'd like your capability statement, and then let's go from there. And I stand up and I'm all excited and I'm like, oh my God, that was awesome. I got to tell them about how great we are. We're better than sliced bread. And then I walk out of the office and I get onto the street and I scratch my head and I go, what's my next step? Shoot. All right. So I'm going to send the CAPE statement to them, but how does all this move into a sale? What do I do now? This happens to a huge percentage of business developers and business owners. You have a meeting, you walk away and you go, well, now what? Right? What's my next step so I actually make money? So I am going to read this to you verbatim because I want you to hear tone of voice. So, Mike says to me, Josh, so tell me a little bit about you guys. Well, we're in the business of streamlining and consolidating information data across multiple geographic networks to increase visibility and accuracy and speed of access across the enterprise. And Mike, I would say on average, we save our clients about 30% in op expenses and a little bit more than 45% in data integrity and database cleansing costs. We've provided these benefits to Monsanto, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the Corps of Engineers. Like most companies in our space, though, our website, marketing, collateral, you can look at all of it. We list a half a dozen services, but the two that provide the most value to our customers are this one and this one. But before I go into any more detail, can I ask you a couple of questions to better help me understand your organization? Would that be okay? This is incredibly difficult to put together the first time. You're not going to need help on it, but you're going to have to, it takes some time. First of all, recognize there are 4 very specific sections here, okay? All very carefully crafted. So for all of you watching live and those that may watch on demand, this is your elevator pitch, right? This is what we used to call the elevator pitch, or some of us still do. Number 1 is your value. Number 1's your value. And by the way, does it say that I'm an information technology company? Look at that first paragraph. No, it doesn't say I'm a technology company, but my value statements clearly identify me as IT. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it, in that specific manner, but I want you to try to communicate what you do through value versus saying, gee, we sell office furniture. Gee, we provide leadership training, okay? And so when you look at that first one, look at all the value. We increase visibility, accuracy, speed, 30%, 45%, quantifiable metrics. Number 2, that's your proof. I don't know you from Adam. You can send me an email. You can send me a capability statement. I am not likely going to look at it. I don't care how long you spent putting it together. Okay, I mean, I'll look at it for 6 seconds, but that's pretty much it. And I'm speaking for government and teaming partners. So when you walk in the door, I really don't know who you are. So tell me what your past performance is. Give me some proof. Number 3, very important. I'm going to stomp my foot. This is where, first of all, you never differentiate your company or your products or services until you've made yourself equal to the competition. Make yourself equal, then differentiate. Because when you say, hey, most companies in our space, look, you can look at, let me paraphrase. Look, you can look at our website, all our marketing material. We're like everybody else, okay? But the 2 things we specialize in are A and B. Everyone will sit back on that. Will sit back in their chair and go, oh my God, finally, a company, a small business that doesn't think they do it all. This is critically important, and it is so easy to do, right? Because all of your competition is going, oh, we're experts at this, right? We can do anything you need us to do, provide anything we need to provide. And by the way, how do I know which 2 products or services to pick? Well, I'm going to look at, I'm going to email, I'm going to look at their website, because I'm going to change that. Whatever 2 products or services I specialize in will change depending on who I'm talking to. How's that for marketing and sales? Okay. And then number 4, you take control. You are not there to talk about your company. Let me say that again. When you go in to have a meeting with the government or even commercial corporation, your mission is to collect information and intelligence that'll make you more competitive. So you want to be in control. So value, proof, make yourself equal, then you differentiate and you take control. Now, remember, hypothetically, I'm a small woman, veteran-owned company. Did you hear me say anything about my status in my pitch? Look back. There's nothing in here about being a small company or woman or veteran-owned. Do large companies introduce themselves and go, hi, I'm SAIC. We're a large corporation that does X, Y, Z? Of course not. So why would you do it? Well, probably because you're being told by people in the market to do it. And from a business perspective, no, doesn't make sense, right? So the government's going to buy from you because of the value you communicate, not because of your status. And it balances you. Folks, it will always come up. In the government space, it will always come up. If it doesn't come up, email me. I'll find something free and I'll send it to you. It's not going to happen. Whether it's another company or it's a government buyer, they are eventually going to ask you what your statuses are. I'm simply saying, don't start with it, because you'll be one of the very few that's acting like a real business professional and understands value. So let me summarize this entire session in 5 seconds. You are not a status. You're a company that provides value. Now, before we go into Q&A, a couple things. First of all, if you like podcasts, okay, if you're a podcast listener, there are about a dozen really strong podcasts for the government, for government contractors at govconpodcast.com. So I'll throw that out there. And a couple things. One, if you don't know who I am, other than you just came onto the call, I'm an author as well. The Insider's Guide to Winning Government Contracts is now the #1 all-time bestseller on Amazon for small business government contractors. And so the tactics that I just did for one very small subset, that's got everything for prospecting, sales, proposal development, you name it. If you like today's webinar, go out and grab the book. I'm not allowed to sell things on these webinars. That's why I put almost free. Podcast, I already walked through. If you want some examples of CAPE statements, you can get some free ones at fedaccess.com /free. Don't forget to engage your PTAC. All right, Nebraska Business Development Center. Make sure you're engaging with them. They are really sharp. And finally, and it's not on here, connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me a note and say, Josh, I just attended your webinar, and I'll respond back to you, because I put a lot of free stuff out on LinkedIn. If you need to contact me, info's at the top. And with that, Veronica, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you and see if we have any Q&A.
You know, we don't have any questions at this time, so I will remind those who do have questions to put them in the question box or in the chat. Meanwhile, I also want to remember everybody that this is a great topic that Josh talked about to apply for our second part of Meet the Buyers on October 20th, when you will have your one-on-one meetings with agencies, and you will have your 15 minutes to talk to them about your business. And the strategy that Josh talked about is amazing. And if you apply that, I'm pretty sure that that will get you somewhere. So we still don't have any questions. And with that, I would like to thank you, Josh, for today's topic and for the presentation. And we'll hear you tomorrow.
Yeah, speaking of which, for all of you that are on today, I'm giving a webinar tomorrow as part of the Meet the Buyers conference on how to do prospecting and sales in the government space. So if you liked listening to me drone on for an hour today, I will be doing it again tomorrow. So just If you want to hear me again 2 days in a row, just register.
Thank you. And our event is free and it's online, so everybody's welcome. With that, I would like to thank you again, Josh, and wish everybody a great day, even if it's raining here in Nebraska. So have an amazing afternoon.
Hey, thanks everybody. Have a great day.